Muting. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Meridian Planning and Zoning Commission on February 1st, 2018. Let's begin with roll call.
Commissioner Holland?
Here.
Commissioner Yearsley?
Here.
Commissioner Fitzgerald?
Here.
Commissioner Casanelli?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Chairperson McCardle?
Here.
Crow absent.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. We have no changes to the agenda, so
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I
Wilson.
move to adopt the agenda. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we have just one item on the consent agenda, the approval of the minutes for the January 18th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Madam. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'd like to briefly explain the public hearing process for this evening. We will open each item individually and then start with the staff report. The staff will report their findings regarding how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and uniform development code with the staff's recommendations. After the staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case for approval of their application and respond to any staff comments. The applicant will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant has finished, we will open to public testimony. There is a sign-up sheet in the back as you entered for anyone wishing to testify. Any person testifying will come forward and be allowed 3 minutes. There is a timer on the screen at the podium so you can keep track of your time. If they are speaking for a larger group like an HOA and there's a show of hands to represent that group, they will be given 10 minutes. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to have the opportunity to come back and respond if they desire. After that, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make a recommendation to City Council. So at this time, I would like to open the public hearing for item H-2017-0165, the Hickory Apartments, and we'll begin with the staff report.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. This is an application for a rezone and for a preliminary plat. The site consists of approximately 1.97 acres of land, which is currently zoned LO, located at 1789 North Hickory Way. The subject property is primarily surrounded by developed and undeveloped commercial and residential properties, which are zoned RUT in Ada County, R8 and CG. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation for the property is commercial. The subject property was originally annexed into the city in 1992 as Angel Park subdivision and granted this current LO zoning. In 2001, council approved a re-subdivision of Lot 1, Block 1 of Angel Park subdivision under the name of Mullane Commercial Complex. And the final plat for Mullane Commercial Complex was approved in 2003. And again, in 2003, council approved a rezone for the property. The applicant tonight is, as I said, applying to rezone 2.11 acres of land from LO zoning to the R40 zoning district. Staff believes the proposed zoning designation is consistent with the policies in the comprehensive plan. The applicant proposes also to develop 40 new multifamily dwellings in 3 buildings, as shown on the site plan. Conditional use permit is requested for the development of multifamily residential uses on the subject property, which, as I said, is 1.97 acres with the proposed R40 zoning. The UDC requires a conditional use permit for multifamily developments within the R40 zoning district. The multifamily residential development is proposed to consist of 40 dwelling units, 3 two-story, and 1 3-story building on 1.97 acres. Units will consist of 1 and 2 bedrooms containing between 500 and 800 square feet for the 1-bedroom units and 8 to 1,200 square feet for the 2-bedroom units. There are 21 bedroom and 22 bedroom units. The applicant is proposing a play structure, a plaza, and a covered sitting area as amenities for the subdivision. The applicant is required to comply with all of these specific use standards for the site as set forth in the UDC. Total number of parking spaces required for the overall development is 70. The applicant has proposed to provide 76 parking spaces, which meets the requirements of the UDC. The applicant is also proposing 40 covered stalls for the development, which also meets the requirements of the UDC. Additionally, bicycle parking is required. That's based on the number of proposed vehicle parking spaces, so that number comes to 4. And the applicant is proposing 4, so they meet that standard as well. Staff had some discussion with internally and with the applicant concerns that we may have with the number of parking spaces for the development. So staff's recommendation is that parking be increased by either including more parking stalls or by eliminating units or both. Staff is of the opinion that the development should reduce the number of units to 36 in order to provide sufficient parking for the development. The additional 8 parking stalls will help lessen the concern about the lack of parking in the surrounding area. A 5-foot wide detached sidewalk exists along North Hickory Way. Additionally, all sidewalks around buildings shall be a minimum of 5 feet in width. The applicant is proposing 1 access from North Hickory Way for the development. As previously mentioned, the development has cross-access to the adjacent commercial development to the south and has connectivity to East Fairview Avenue. Any fencing proposed to be constructed on the site shall comply with the standards in the UDC. Trash enclosures and other service functions are required to be incorporated into the overall design of buildings and landscaping so that the visual and acoustic impacts of these functions are fully contained. The applicant has revised their plan since the staff report to include the 2 trash enclosures that will be required. The applicant's going to circle back and coordinate with Republic Services to ensure that's exactly what they need, but they've modified their site plan to include an additional trash enclosure. Details of those trash enclosures should be submitted with the certificate of zoning compliance application. The trash enclosure shall also accommodate recycling containers. This is a landscape plan. So if you see on the landscape plan here, where my mouse is indicating, this would be up against the Dove Meadows subdivision. The applicant has provided a 25-foot landscape buffer as well as a considerable number of trees. This is not required by the UDC, but the applicant is proposing to do that. Typically, when we have a commercial development, which this won't be, but if it were, that would be required to be a 25-foot landscape buffer and then 1 tree for every 35 feet. In this case, the applicant's provided double the number of trees that would be required if this were commercial, and also providing that 25-foot landscape buffer for those neighbors. These are the conceptual building elevations proposed by the applicant. As you can see on the left here, this is the 2-story, and on the right would be the 3-story proposed. You can go back to the site plan. I can indicate which are the 2 and which is the 3-story. These 2 up closer to Dove Meadows would be the 2-story units. This would be the 3-story unit as proposed by the applicant, so you're aware. Building materials are proposed to consist of hardy board, metal, and stucco. Prior to submission of the certificate of zoning compliance, the applicant shall provide details of the carports. I have that in here, but did receive that information from the applicant this evening. It's in the public record. So a certificate of zoning compliance and administrative design review application are required prior to obtaining a building permit for this, if approved. Did receive written testimony from Shirley Moon, apologize if I butcher the last name, Jesse Visital, and Wallace Kimball. Staff is recommending approval, and I'll stand for any questions you have.
Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Becky McKay with Engineering Solutions, business address 1029 North Rosario in Meridian. I'm here on behalf of Midway Investments, representing them on this application that's before you this evening. If Josh could. PowerPoint. No? No, it's black.
Becky, we can see it.
Oh.
Does that help you?
Helps me. Okay, you can see it. The applications that are before you this evening is a rezone from LO to R40 and a conditional use permit. As Josh indicated, the particular project before you has 3 buildings for a total of 40 units. There are 2 buildings that are 2-story with 8 units per building. And then we have 1 3-story building that has 24 units. Be nice if I could see my PowerPoint. Makes it a little harder. If you could bring it up.
Power switch on. Let's start with there.
I'll go ahead and kind of go over the uses in this. In this particular corridor, we find that there are multiple uses. The corridor itself is designated on your comprehensive plan land use map commercial. And then there's a variety of uses in the general vicinity, which include townhomes, single-family dwellings, commercial, office, and industrial to the south. The blue light's on. It was on. Oh. There, the blue light's on. In your comprehensive plan, under the commercial designation, it does allow for a variety of uses. It encourages a variety of uses, which are retail, office, and multifamily. In looking at this piece of property, obviously, it was rezoned and annexed to an LO designation approximately 26 years ago. They platted it as Mulaney subdivision 17 years ago. The property is owned by the owner of Louis Restaurant. It has sat vacant for many years but it is platted. There's central sewer and water that is available to the site. We did meet with Public Works. There's adequate capacity for the project that we're proposing. And as far as the water, there's an 8-inch water line that loops from Hickory out to the Fairview trunk line and can provide adequate fire flow. In looking at this particular site, obviously, we wanted to make sure that we could provide some transitioning since we do have Dove Meadows just on our northern boundary. In our particular site plan, I don't know if Josh is changing. I don't know what you're looking at.
I'm showing the rendering, the aerial rendering right now. Got the reflection of the glass back there, screen. Get your rearview mirror on.
There we go. Yeah, I don't have my rearview mirror on. That's kind of an aerial rendering of the site. As you can see, we wanted to obviously create a good buffer from those single-family dwellings. So it was my recommendation that we have our open space and our amenities located there, and then the 2-story buildings. They're kind of oscillated there, so we don't create a linear effect. There's an existing 5-foot masonry wall that was constructed by Louis Restaurant when they put in the development originally. It's approximately 5 feet high, runs along the Dove Meadows northern boundary, and it's offset approximately 7 feet from the boundary. So in our planning, what we wanted to do was go in and install a nice tree line in that 7 feet with the drip line, and then we still provide, obviously, the 25 feet of landscaping and buffering between our structures. The two-story buildings, as far as the height, they're 26 feet. That's to the top of the parapet. If you want to switch to the next page, the amenity page.
You did, Vicki.
You advance it, please.
Yep.
Yeah, the amenities page. Your ordinance requires basically 50% of the open space that we're providing. We have 0.46 acres of open space, which is approximately 23.35% of this project. So that is double what the UDC requires. As far as our amenities, we are proposing a plaza sitting area, a covered picnic area, playground facility, and then obviously landscape buffers adjacent to Hickory Way and open space areas. If you want to go to the next. That shows you kind of a rendering of the plaza sitting area. It'd be a gathering place. It's internalized within the development, located centrally. It'd be, we'd have outdoor furniture. Obviously, there'd be covered areas where people could gather, chat, and just kind of chill. If you want to switch it to the next one. That shows a playground that we're proposing. It's obviously located in the open space. That is adjoining the Dove Meadows development. You can see the buildings, the two-story buildings that in the background. So that kind of gives you a perspective of what those buildings would look like in that primary play area. As far as the covered picnic area, it would be just off to the west of the play area. So parents could sit there in the shade, watch the kids play, eat lunch, and enjoy themselves. If you go to the next one, this gives you kind of an overall perspective of what the project looks like. We have 20 foot of landscaping that's existing along Hickory. We will retain that landscaping where there's a condition that mandates that we retain and protect that landscaping, and then we would be adding additional landscaping and green space to the project. The parking, we've kind of internalized within the development, and we think the way we have it structured, we've got excellent circulation through the project. We don't have buildings that are all lined up. They're obviously angled in different ways, so that cuts down on the bulk or look of the building. As far as the two-story buildings, they're roughly about 4,600 square feet. So the footprint is 2,000 and some 2,300 square feet. So, you know, you'll find that a large single-family dwelling, two-story single-family dwelling would be of this size and bulk. So we think, you know, from a compatibility perspective, we think that that was a good choice on our part. And then we have the three-story building, which is 37 feet to the top of that parapet, and that would be up at the furthest southern end of the project, adjoining the parking lot for the Louis Restaurant. As far as the density is concerned, the density that we're proposing is 20.3 dwelling units per acre. Obviously, the city only has 2 multifamily zones. We have the R15 and we have the R40, and that's always the way it has been. And so R15 is what we typically would use for, you know, like townhomes, fourplexes, for multifamily apartment type structures. We always typically go to the R40 in order to give us the densities that are necessary in order to make the projects feasible. In the two-story buildings, we have 12 one-bedroom units. They're about 703 square feet. There's 22 square feet of enclosed exterior storage, and then they have an 80 square foot exterior deck or patio, depending if they're on the first or the second floor. Then we have 12 two-bedroom units. They're 954 square feet of living area with 25 square feet of storage and an 80 square foot patio or deck. Those are the three-story buildings, sorry. In the two-story building, those units are 745 square feet for the single story and 954 square feet for the two-bedroom units instead of the one-bedroom units. It's hard when I don't have my PowerPoint. One of the things that the staff asked is, as far as management, there will be an on-site manager. We've created an exterior office door in the three-story building, would be a manager that would take care of it. As far as maintenance of all of the open space and facilities, that would be done by a management company where they bring in their equipment and facilities to take care of all of that, the mowing and trimming and so forth. The building directory, one of the things the staff brought up is we had the building directory in the middle of the project. We did relocate that out to the exterior as requested. We had art as one of our amenities, and they recommended that we change that to a covered like sitting area, which we did. The buildings themselves, if you want to kind of switch over to the next one. As far as the TAO architects designed these buildings, they created quite a bit of modulation, which creates visual interest, shadow lines using a variety of materials where they use stucco, they use hardy backboard, they use metal, variation of color schemes so that the buildings, look aesthetically pleasing, and we don't get any wall effect. That's, the intent of your design guidelines is to create visual interest, and so that, regardless of which side you're on on the buildings, that we're getting some type of modulation and obviously relief at the same time. And that articulation is basically created by the patios and the different materials and colorings. The parking drive aisles, they vary between 25 and 26 feet in width, which meets your fire code. All of our radiuses meet the fire code. As far as the parking, we have 76 parking spaces. The staff did have us make some changes to the site plan, adding some additional islands, landscape islands at the ends of some of the blocks, which we did comply. So as far as the site plan that is before you this evening, it is in compliance with the UDC. As far as parking is concerned, your ordinance requires 1.5 spaces for a one-bedroom and then 2 spaces for a 2 to 3 bedroom, for a total of 70 spaces for the 40 units. We have 76 spaces, and that's after making the addition of the 6 islands that the staff requested. So we basically, initially we had 77, we have 76, so we have 6 additional spaces. So a parking ratio of basically 1.90. As far as our building coverage, we're around 20% building coverage. And as far as the landscaping of the site is concerned, we are at almost 48% of the site will be landscapable area. And 30% consists of drive aisles and parking. Hickory Way is a collector roadway. It's a signalized intersection at Fairview Avenue. Ada County Highway District has reviewed the project. They have indicated that there's approximately 3,957 vehicle trips per day on Hickory Way. Typically, a residential collector like that can handle up to around 6,000 vehicle trips per day. It says it operates. That's the ITE.
No, please, no shouting out.
They say it operates at better than a level of service D. which is acceptable level of service. So as far as the transportation network, there is capacity. If we incorporate our PM trips, we'll basically generate 19 additional PM peak trips on Hickory Way, for a total of, I think there are 243 PM trips right now, according to Ada County Highway District. We generate in a total day 264 vehicle trips. On Fairview Avenue, it's a major arterial. There's 30,921 vehicle trips per day. It's operating at a level of service better than F, and we will basically increase that traffic at less than 0.85%. So as far as Ada County Highway District's staff report is concerned, there is capacity on both the arterial and the collector to accommodate this particular project. And Josh, if you want to, can you go back to the aerial photo, which would be the
Or
aerial view? Third slide.
Got it.
So as you can see, the Louis Restaurant is located right there along the Fairview corridor. And then you can see there is a curb cut right at Fairview. That curb cut, there's cross access between all of these lots. So there's the curb cut and there's cross access with speed bumps and goes back to Hickory Way if you go due north. And then it intersects and aligns with the public street there to the north. There's also another cross-access that goes to the east where there's an approach that aligns with the church. So there is multiple ways out of this particular property, and in the subdivision plat of Mulaney, there is cross-access between all of these particular parcels that were created. Obviously, providing for them alternative ways of entering and exiting this site. So it's not like there's only one approach that is available to this site. I did look at it from the perspective of LO. Obviously, you know, transportation. I read one of the emails that came in, and that was one of the items that they brought up. And, you know, in looking at it from a transportation perspective, if this were to develop as LO with the same square footage, it would generate 118 more vehicle trips per day. So it's a higher generator, traffic generator as LO than it is as multifamily. One of the things I'll conclude, I assume that was my ding. I will conclude.
We had a few technical issues at the beginning, so.
Okay, thank you. From a planning perspective, when we're looking at locating multifamily sites, we're looking for areas that have developed and provide a mixture of services and where people can potentially bike, walk, or at some point in time have mass transit available to them. So obviously the Fairview, this is within the, you know, almost the downtown city core. It is a smaller site. We're talking 40 units. A lot of these multifamily projects that we're seeing that have been approved or on the books are 200, 300 units. I've had some of those myself. Obviously, you know, there are places for those units that or projects of that magnitude, but as far as the smaller projects, they fit a nice niche where they're providing diversity, where people can walk to a restaurant, walk to a service, maybe they work at the adjoining office, they have a church available, We found out the Silver Oaks apartments that my firm did, that they utilize a lot of the services at 10 Mile Christian Church, because a lot of the churches provide daycare and a variety of services. So the churches find them to be a good neighbor, and it provides obviously an alternative mix, alternative type of living for the residents of Meridian. Right now, the number of rental units available out there is at an all-time low, and rents are continuing to rise. And so we're trying to meet a demand, and we are trying to obviously locate them in areas, like I said, where we're closer to the urban core, so that they can have fewer vehicle trips on the transportation network. We think we've got a great project. We've worked really, really hard with the architects as far as the renderings, to give the city a good perspective of what we're proposing. I disagree with the staff wanting to reduce the number of units from 40 to 36 when we already exceed the parking requirements and meet all of the UDC. This particular project, it needs the 40 units in order to be a viable, economically feasible project, and I ask that you support it. Thank you. Do you have any questions
for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll begin public testimony. The first one I have on the sign-up sheet that indicates they'd like to testify is Scott Tiffany. And please state your name and address for the record.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, commission, my name is Scott Tiffany. My address is 2726 North Lapis Avenue. I'm one of the homeowners in the area that would be negatively impacted by this project should it be approved. And as I'm speaking tonight, and as you're listening to my colleagues behind me speak, I want you to think about, is this a project that you would approve in your backyard? Would it enhance your neighborhood? Would it enhance your quality of life? Would it enhance your property values? How's that?
Yeah, just pull the mic closer to you. You have to be
I'm
real
a little
close
too
to
tall
it.
for the mic.
There you go.
So to begin with, I'm no great orator. I'll get that out of the way up front. On a good day, I might get lucky and say one thing of small importance. I hope you'll overlook that shortcoming and hear the message I've prepared for you tonight. Karl Marx once wrote, "Religion is the opiate of the masses." While I begin with that quote, I'm not here to debate the concept of atheism. I want to offer a parallel euphemism. The tax dollar is the opiate of the politician. I know you're not officially politicians, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. I have more hope that this body can act in the interests of the citizens than I do if it gets into the hands of the elected officials. I stand before you, as I mentioned, as a homeowner who would be negatively impacted by this project. I've owned my home in the area for over 10 years. High-density residential construction is already occurring to the north. Traffic and congestion on the surrounding roadways is already troubling. And I've got to say, Hickory Way, despite what you might have been misled to believe a few minutes before, can't handle an additional traffic volume. It's just not accurate. I have no objection to the development on the property in the purpose for which it's currently zoned, but I do strongly object to additional high-density apartments in the area. I feel that if approved, this proposed change would represent a government-sanctioned action that would reduce my property value, increase my commute time, and increase crime in the area just because of the congestion and compaction of the people. When I purchased my home, I did so with the understanding this property was zoned for light office purposes. Surely there are other properties out there that could suit the developer's needs that are already zoned for the density they're looking for. I'm also told that one of the homeowners most immediately impacted was listed on the developer's application as not opposed to the application. I'm hopeful that individual will communicate his true feelings to the board tonight. I understand he certainly opposes it at this point, and I ask the commission to consider that reference on the application and how it represents, to me, how those with power and wealth will construe silence to be acquiescence to their interests when it suits them. If the submitter needs to represent to such tactics to obtain such approval shouldn't be granted. Real quick, finally, I understand this property has come up for rezoning for this commission before. I implore you to stand fast for the rights of the existing homeowners, as existing commission members have done, and vote no on the project.
Thank you.
Hey, guys. We don't need any clapping. This is a public hearing. Everybody gets to say their piece. Applicant gets to say their piece. We don't need any shout outs or clapping, okay? We appreciate your patience. We have a long night ahead of us from everybody wanting to talk.
Questions?
Okay. I think we're good.
No.
Thank you, sir.
I think we had there was another, something else was beeping, that first beep. Okay. All right.
to be respectful of your time.
Okay. Okay. Okay, next on the list indicates they'd like to speak is Pete Kruger.
Hello, my name is Pete Kruger. I live at 2612 East Clarine Court. I live in the neighborhood. Actually, with that aerial map, that is exactly what I wanted to address. If you look at it, the building on the left, the orange top building, is Louis' Restaurant. The one to the immediate right of that is D.L. Evans Bank, and the one to the immediate right of that is a paint store. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. If you look at that, that is all parking spaces. Those are not roads. And the reason why I know this is because I actually do cut through Louis' parking lot getting home from Fairview. That is not a road you can use to get in and out well. There are a number of very large speed bumps on that road, and that is the case. The only viable way out of that apartment complex based on that map is Hickory Road. And just like the guy before me, Hickory Road is a zoo in the morning to come out and in the night to come back in. There are also on Sunday, with the church being there, it is even worse. It feeds 3 subdivisions, the Solterra subdivision that I actually border on because I live in the cul-de-sac area, the second one above. There are a lot of people there. It also feeds Packard subdivision. There is only one other way out of Packard subdivision, and that is going up Chateau, cutting through another subdivision. So typically, Packard cuts through Dove Meadows to get to Hickory, and out they go. That is the case. That is my only gripe, is that the only viable access out is Hickory Road. If it was to cut out on Fairview, I would be much happier. But with Hickory Road, it's not doable. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Any questions? Anyone?
Next on the list is Wally Kimball.
Wally Kimball, 2624 East Apricot Court. I guess my question, I have more questions than comments. What I didn't hear is, I don't know why we need this. I don't know why the city needs this project. I didn't hear any comments as to other options for this project. Do we need this additional high-density dwelling in Meridian? And if we do need it, are there other options? And I haven't heard whether that was addressed or not. I don't understand the need to rezone this area. I guess that's my question. I haven't heard the pros and cons. What's from planning and zoning? What's positive about this? Why should we have it? And the cons, why shouldn't we have it? I am up here saying I don't think we should have it, but I don't know all the issues. I know how it affects me. I think the traffic's going to be an issue too, but evidently Ada County's addressed that. But anyway, I think the traffic's going to be pretty heavy, but what are the other issues involved? I haven't heard any answers to those. I'd have to oppose the project, I guess, in short, because I don't think we have enough information as to whether the city really needs this project here. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Don Burheim.
Good evening. My name is Dawn Burheim. Reside at 2056 North Josie Way in Meridian, which is in the Packard Estates subdivision. So similar to some of the other folks who've been testifying, I have concerns about property values, decreasing the value that we've already personally sustained from the building of the Solterra subdivision, which backs up directly to our house. The apartment complex proposed would have a further negative impact on our personal property. Decreased values of our single family homes in the area also brings forward concerns that the properties in our neighborhoods will increase in rentals and transient occupancy, which we've already experienced on our own street. The high-density rentals would likely increase our crime rates, which is of concern. On the traffic, that's already been discussed. I have concerns about that apartment complex and that folks will start parking on the side of Hickory Way. It's a curvy road. It's nicely landscaped currently. Concerns that cars go too fast around there and it could cause a safety hazard for folks who are walking that. So folks do take advantage of that 5-foot sidewalk and do some walks for exercise as well as walking their pets. Also, the street that I live on goes into the elementary school. And we actually, in the mornings and afternoons when the kids are walking to school, there's quite a few folks who drive their kids to that school, and they go pretty fast. We've requested speed bumps on our neighborhood street in the past, but that was declined due to the need for emergency service vehicles to be able to access the houses more rapidly, and concerned about this additional traffic coming from the apartments going into the school, creating a safety hazard for our children. And then in addition to that is, can the schools handle the increased students that would be coming with this complex? Thank you.
Thank you. Shirley Moon.
Madam Chair, Commissioners. Whoops.
Okay, please speak, right into the mic and
There
give
we
your name
go.
and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Shirley Moon, and I'm at the Solterra development. And I think that's all I need. Oh, my address is 2834 East Clarine.
Okay.
And I'm here. I've been a homeowner in that area for 6 months. And the potential for future development, besides what we're even discussing here tonight, is huge because there's that huge lot where they grow seed, grass seed. That's open for future development. But I want to get back to our area because something that hasn't been mentioned yet is Solterra and Hickory. The way we get into our unit is the same way we get out. Directly across our driveway, if you look at the map, it goes straight into the development. And the person that presented the information said there's lots of ways to get through this. And one gentleman said it's speed bumps, it's private property, it's businesses. If we cut through there the way it is now, I would think we'd be breaking the law. You know, so it's just a driveway. It's not a street. There's no streets. It's all driveway. So, and then when it, directly across from Solterra Way that leads into our development is the proposed development. And sometimes when I sit at the light, I might be number 10 car. The light does not let that many cars go. So sometimes it takes 4 or 5 or 6 minutes just to get to the light and get through it. Then if I'm going eastbound to Eagle, there's another 5-minute wait. So commute time is really horrendous. It's very frustrating. And I would like to challenge ACHD to say, would you please do a recount? Because the traffic is horrendous. And on Sunday, when if you're out and about, I have no complaints about the church. It's really an asset to our community. But the traffic, probably 500 cars, I'm guessing, but they have a huge parking lot that is totally full. And they use the back part of the parking lot connects to our neighborhood, and it's horrendous for them to try and get out of the parking lot, plus us to go if we want to do something on Sunday. So this proposal right directly across from us, that has not been mentioned, and it appears by the plot map that a lot of that traffic would come to Hickory Way, and there we are, trying to get out of our neighborhood. We only have one entrance, one exit. It is totally the same. And it's wonderful right now because there's no cross traffic. We have a beautiful little neighborhood. It's nice and quiet. Dove Meadows, I butt up to Dove Meadows, and I love my neighbors. It's a beautiful, quiet neighborhood. But with the increased traffic and school and apartments and who knows what, it just seems like there's a nightmare occurring or going to occur. So I would like to say, I recently read it in the newspaper. Is that
Are you yeah,
okay.
Are you concluding?
The Meridian Press, a councilwoman, Genesis Milan, I'm not sure she's still here, but she encouraged the developer to listen to what the people had to say during the hearing and take everything into consideration. And she said, and this is what touched me because it gave me hope, and it says, make this happen in a way that is kind to the neighbors. Well, that development would not be kind to our neighbors. And I would like to challenge the amount of traffic for a business versus homeowners. And the amount of cars are probably 70 cars, 70 spaces. That's a lot of traffic, and I would like to challenge that amount for the business also. There's a lot of things that just do not make sense. The pictures look beautiful, but when you live in the community, it is not like it's pictured.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Somebody's gonna have to help me out with this. Boyden? Sounds good to me.
I have not a lot to say, but I live over there.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Oh, 2593 East Apricot Court.
And your name for our recorder over there.
Name?
Yes.
Bogdan
Uh-huh.
Marcinyuk.
Okay.
I live almost 23 years over there. And I oppose that project. First of all, I live right across the street. It's kind of, we have Silterra, this lady was here. It's too much traffic, too much density. Plus, I don't understand why we have to have so high building across our houses. I didn't buy houses for I never thought it's apartment coming. I bought house 1996. I totally oppose that project, and city should consider that opposing to do that project. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry Gherkin? Okay, thank you. Craig Randall?
Good evening. I'm Craig Randall. I am living at 2528 East Meadowood Court. That's in the Packard subdivision. And just a couple of things. We've heard a lot tonight, and I appreciate the efforts of the developer to state their case. Two things I want to challenge as well. The 3,400 plus trips units, whatever they're called, on Hickory. That was the ACHD number. That is actually about 3 times the amount of a normal collector road, if my research is correct. So we already are triple capacity. And I appreciate the total capacity might take into account the hours of 12:30 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. but that doesn't affect anybody. So we'll throw that out. And again, the driveway through Louis is not a road. The only access to the outside world, so to speak, would be on Hickory. And again, that's already overtaxed. Those are all cosmetic things. I think the one thing that I wanted to point out is the UDC states in section 11.1.2F that the responsibility of development and your roles as a planning and zoning commission in the state is to, in the community is to protect property rights and enhance property values. This will not do that. The average property value hit to a home that is within striking distance of a high-density subdivision such as is planned here is about $15,000. The starter homes or the smaller homes that are in Dove Meadows are impacted at that degree. Those of us that live in Packard, this is going to come out wrong, but the property values of homes are a little bit larger. The hit is greater. It's an average of $30,000. And that's not what I signed up for when I bought in 2006. I bought a home to raise my family, which I'm doing, my 4 kids. And I did not sign up for a $30,000 hit because somebody decided they want to make some money off a development that does not belong in this community. So again, I urge you to address the UDC in that section of protecting property rights and enhancing property values. This would not do that. This subdivision would not do that. In addition, the jump from right to R40 from the current zoning is more than one step. I believe that also does not follow policy per the comprehensive plan. Density can only be changed one step. I think we're skipping a step here. I realize it's already been rezoned once. Just because you did something once doesn't mean it need to be done again. Okay, and I don't think we should do this here. I know that there's much more to be said. I will cede the rest of my time to whoever comes after me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Paloma Outerman. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Paloma Adderman. I'm 2836 North Lawson Way. And as a mom of 3 and a homeowner in Packard Estates, my biggest concern is a loss in quality of life. My family and I live in Meridian because it's a clean, safe, friendly place to live. And I think by adding on this project, just like so many more being added to the city, we're trying to squeeze more and more residents into every available piece of land in an already pretty densely populated area, and I think that's just unwise and irresponsible. I believe that you as city planners have the responsibility to stand up for the best interest of our community and limit our growth, protect our neighborhoods, and avoid overcrowding. My husband and I sold our previous home partly because we were burglarized and we didn't feel safe in our own neighborhood. And it was a very scary experience that left us feeling very violated. We also dealt with issues of delivered packages being stolen from our neighbors' front steps, vandalized mailboxes, and I think that's what starts to happen with overcrowding and why we left and why we're happy to be in our current neighborhood. Crime increases with overcrowding, the desirability to live decreases, and like it's been mentioned, property values decrease. My family and I love Meridian. We love living here. We want to be here as long as possible, and we want to see it remain a safe, friendly community. And while I understand that providing additional housing is necessary, I urge you to be thoughtful in our growth rather than deplete our current neighborhoods of their space and their value. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Eric Bueller.
My name is Eric Bueller. I live at 2104 North Josie Way. And I want to just read one comment from ITD and then a little bit others. The city is reminded that the SH55 Eagle Road corridor is already congested. This project will increase the number of vehicle trips in the corridor. While this individual development is not large, the accumulation of developments across the state highway system at the SH 55 North Eagle Road Fairview Avenue intersection is creating additional congestion. As the city continues to add additional trips to this corridor through development, the congestion will worsen until the roadway system ultimately is overloaded and fails. And then also just a couple notes on a lot of what's already been said. Hickory Way is really busy. It's very congested already. I believe this would really add to that congestion, especially when parking starts to happen on Hickory Way. Also, if you're coming out of the Solterra subdivision, if you have to make a left-hand turn and somebody else is coming directly across from you, I'm not sure how the road is not wide enough to accommodate those types of turns. It's going to decrease our values. This is mature neighborhoods, mature homes. When we bought the homes, we weren't planning on high density coming into these places. And also, it's going to increase the crime in our neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Brittany Bueller.
Hi, my name is Brittany Bueller. I live at 2104 North Josie Way. My family and I live in Packard Estates, and we are concerned about the rezoning change and subsequent proposal to build apartments on Hickory Way. Rezoning the proposed location from LO to R40 will place undue hardship on my family and neighborhood by decreasing the property value of our homes, increasing crime, and increasing traffic. I urge you to oppose the rezoning change and keep the lot zoned as light commercial. We bought our homes knowing that this plot of land was zoned as light commercial. I've spoken with real estate agents who've confirmed that building apartments in a settled neighborhood will decrease property values and increase crime. When people are renting instead of owning, there's less ownership, less sense of community. They move more often, they're not invested in our neighborhood. All established neighborhoods, not just mine, have homeowners who spend hours volunteering for their HOAs, for their local schools, for scouts, sports programs, and they do it for their families and to create a sense of community. I do that. We invest our lives into our homes and our schools and our neighborhoods for our families and the well-being of our children. Throwing an apartment complex into this or any mature neighborhood would ignore the wishes of homeowners and devastate neighborhoods. Additionally, if the zoning is changed and 40 apartments are built, then 40 to 80 more cars will be driving on Hickory Avenue every day. Children walk home from our neighborhood school. It's an elementary school. They walk through Packard Estates, Dove Meadows, and Solterra. They filter out of school onto a very curvy Hickory Avenue. Our children won't be safe walking home from school with less invested, busy drivers who drive too fast to save time and are trying to avoid Eagle Road. For cars that will head south to Fairview, traffic already builds up at this intersection. Making Hickory Avenue a thoroughfare for even more cars would be a mistake. I walked my neighborhood and I collected 44 signatures on a petition to oppose this zoning change. We have a total of 119 signatures. Many of my neighbors may be here tonight, but many couldn't make it. I, along with my neighbors, urge you to deny this zoning change and keep the parcel zoned as light commercial. Do you know that of the 44 homeowners I spoke with, not one wanted the project to go through? Every single one said that they wanted to oppose the project and urged me to do my part, as I suggested they do theirs, to ask you to please not rezone that parcel of land. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Ingram.
Hi there, I'm Scott Ingram. I'm the Vice President of the Dove Meadows HOA, as well as a resident there at 2606 East Clarine Court. I'm basically going to go through some of the same points. One thing I would like to point out, though, is it was indicated that there are 3 access routes to Fairview. I'd welcome anybody to drive by Fred Meyer, at least 3 accidents, T-bones there between by Locust Grove. And that we would probably just end up with more of those between Locust Grove and Hickory at that point. Same thing, I'm opposed to it. I've already spoken to a realtor in light of this if it does go through, and the realtor I did speak with did confirm that housing values do go down. Again, with rentals, crime increases. I've been through this once already before, about 6 years ago. That's why I moved to this home in Meridian from Ogden, Utah, and so I've already seen this. I know it's all facts. We had a survey conducted of 100, we had 110 responses. 97% of the responses are against the project. Reasons included traffic, which I'll talk about a little bit more, property value. I mentioned this to my assistant today, what I was coming to do tonight at City Hall. She's 25 years old, and her first statement to me was, well, won't your property value go down? She rents a house with her young family, so she was quite aware of that already. I was quite surprised. Again, visual appeal of neighborhood, housing density, and crime. All of the above are important to the residents of Dove Meadows as far as why they are opposed, and if the level of neighborhood appeal decreases, families move to a more desirable area, resulting in less self-policing and increase in crime. This type of high-density housing typically attracts young, low-level income. I was there once. And all of the associated issues, which have already been mentioned: high turnover, increased noise, speeding, lack of respect for property, and with theft and crime increasing, policing costs are going to increase with that too. As far as traffic goes, traffic, we've already discussed, will increase. The points I have are decreased safety for all that use Hickory for access to their current homes. Decreased safety for the children that go to school and cross Hickory already with speeding cars, getting on school buses and stuff. Increased cars parked on the road will decrease visibility. It's already tough on Sundays. You can only get one car through there. I drive a big truck. I can only get my truck through. Somebody else has to wait when church is in session if cars are parked on both sides of Hickory. Kids crossing, again, through to get to the school bus, the one corner it picks up won't be visible, especially in the morning right now when it's dark at 6 a.m. and they're going to have to cut between cars and stuff. Increased wait times on Hickory. I'm up and down. I'm in and out. My office is 5 minutes from the house. I've waited up to 4 lights. That was mentioned. Somebody had to wait 2 lights. I've waited up to 4 lights to get through Hickory. Currently, we're at 3 times the traffic use that was mentioned. 3,000 hits. An average neighborhood in researching stats I've found are around 1,000 for our area. And Hickory is not only serving Dove Meadows, it's serving the 4 subdivisions behind us. So that's it. I welcome you guys to come out on a Sunday and check out the church traffic and as well check the accident report on Fairview.
Okay, thank you. Dave McDonald.
Thank you. Dave McDonald, 2579 East Grapewood Drive. I have been asked by the HOA to speak on behalf of the HOA. I don't know if I get the 10-minute clock or not.
I think we've had plenty of speakers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in lieu of other speakers, so,
okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Well, we do have that presentation.
I don't know exactly where it is.
It's just on the root drive. It's a PDF file. It's on that thumb drive.
Sure, there's a couple folders. I'm not sure which one.
It's not in the folder. So if you can go ahead and just show the first 4 slides for a few seconds. So the next slide that has the pie chart on it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? I spend all the time helping to collect the surveys and the results, and I realize all of you are volunteers and some of you actually serve on HOA boards. I appreciate your time, and I don't want to bore you with repeating the data.
You need to get real close to that mic,
Okay,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm a little taller than most people, but long story short, we've been at no less than 4 previous zoning commissions. One of the previous zoning commissioners was Bill Nary.
Yeah, there you go.
And he made a comment about how many times this property had been rezoned. This 6.95.
Pull it right up to you. No,
Sorry.
You're not getting it.
So this 6.95 acres was subdivided so that they could actually sell the properties along Fairview as commercial zone properties, with the intent of keeping this property that abuts my home and our subdivision as LO as the buffer. That's what we all bought into, and that's the exact statement that Bill Neri made on a previous zoning commission. I believe he's now our city attorney. If we move this goalpost, it will benefit one and hurt many. That's what we're really opposed to, is we want to keep this within the confines of an LO zone. Now, people have already mentioned, they've talked to realtors, and one of those realtors is here tonight, one that I actually interviewed in my survey and compiled the data. I'm the one who compiled the data on homes that have coexisted with apartments for more than 10 years. That allows at least 1/3 of the properties to go through one transition to a new homeowner. That's how you can prove loss of ownership. I'm a numbers guy. I measured homes 2,500 feet in this comparison neighborhood that actually was impacted, and the number is 15% for homes even 2,500 feet away from the entryway. Homes like mine that abut that, the number is much higher, and it's equivalent to a very decent car. We have limited time, so I will just summarize. There are code statements that have already been stated in our plan. 11.1-2F says we are supposed to protect property rights and enhance values. This may protect property rights and enhance values for one, but we want it to be good for all, not just one. Moving this goalpost and telling a developer that of the 6.95 acres that they originally purchased no longer has to be, even the last portion that we said would be our buffer is not going to be an LO office, we're crying foul. We're opposed to that. This same developer is actually building a Sagewood Commons light office. We would love that. I'm not opposed to zoning. We're just saying that we want it to be those types of developments that we all bought into. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last person I have signed up here is Bill Eames.
Which is the active mic? This one? This one.
That one.
My name is Bill Eames.
Mm-hmm.
I live at 2410 East Clarine Street in Dove Meadows. I've lived there for 17 years. And the traffic issue has been beaten to death. Those of us who have fought that battle for 17 years, it took us about 6 years to get the traffic light in. And it took another many years to get ACHD to regulate the timing on it. And it still takes 3 minutes for a timing change during the daylight hours. If you happen to be the first one in line to make a left turn, you'll wait at least 3 minutes before the light will change. And if you're 10th back in the line on a 7:30 in the morning, it's tough. But traffic's been kicked around and beaten to death. So my other primary opposition to this project is the design, the fact that the 3-story building. The 2 stories would be bad enough. We have some 2 stories in Packard. We have some 2 stories over in Solterra. And they were designed to kind of fit the area. They aren't higher than the church, for one thing. A 3-story building is 37 feet tall, is not in keeping with the area, and would stick out like a lighthouse in the fog. Plus, the exteriors that they show in those renderings, the architect must have taken a class in how to make things stand out instead of blend in. They're not earth tones. They're not the kind of materials that are prevalent in the area, particularly in the residential areas. And for these reasons, I think the project should be denied.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up. Is there anybody that has anything new that they'd like to offer that they feel they need to say? Yes. Okay. The gray sweatshirt right here. Please state your
Douglas
name.
Gregory. I live at 2413 Clarine Street, Dove Meadows. I've been there since 2009, I'm sorry. And we've had a lot of talk about traffic, access, not access, everything that's going to be good about the project they're projecting. Nobody's talked about, you excuse me, I'll back up just a little bit. About the land.
You can't speak from back. He can't get it on the recorder.
Southwest of this project, that's currently nothing on it. It's open land. What happens when it develops? Are we going to have another high-rise subdivision or apartment house of some type? And it won't help the traffic on Hickory unless you let people access Eagle Road from there. And if you do, then you got, pardon me, Fairview Avenue from there. Then if you do, you've got another Eagle Road with too many accesses and too much traffic. I think this project should be taken where it's already zoned, R40, and let them build it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, and we have anybody that needs to say something other than traffic and come on up.
My name is Carl Malkowski, 2199 North Chandra Place. I just bought into the property. I bought my house, moved in a year ago to the day. Obviously, this isn't what we planned or signed up for. My biggest problem is when you look at the rendering that they're giving you, yeah, it's a nice looking building. You're not seeing all the apartments, how they have all the covered parking spots and how it's going to actually look. You're just looking at what looks almost like an office type building. It's going to bring down the whole look of the area just with that apartment look of the lower income type community that it's going to bring through. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I think the commission at this time understands we have concerns about traffic, the property values, dislike of the rendering itself, and the three-story building. Do we have anything else? Come on.
I just had a couple of quick questions.
Yeah. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Anderson. I live at 2564 East Bernice Drive in Packard Estates, and I've been here since 2002. I've been in the subdivision 2002. And like a lot of the homeowners here, I bought here because I wanted to live. We moved from out of state here. I didn't want to live in Garden City. I still don't. And this is an awful lot like Garden City to me. And so it doesn't help us very much. But I'm wondering, I had two questions. In the project, it wasn't mentioned, we use a lot of codes and stuff, I guess, in housing. Is this HUD housing in any way? Is HUD funds used for this at all? Is there any?
We'll ask the applicant.
Pardon me?
We'll ask the applicant when they come back.
The other is, would you, for the group that are here, it would be great to know, because I think right at the beginning you said that the recommendations of the staff were to go ahead with the rezoning. Am I correct in that, or did I mishear that?
Yes.
Okay. It would be great if you would tell us why you think it's a good idea. You've heard a lot of us who live here and have to live here every day, and will have to live with this eyesore. But I'd like to know what you decided in your decision process is so good about this for the city of Meridian and also for us. Yep. That's all I need.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any last comments? Come on up.
Thank you. Sean Kenny, 2201 East Apricot Drive. You did mention safety. I think safety is an issue. People today do cut through by Louis. You're going to be having people going out where there's no light, turning onto Fairview. That's not going to be safe. So I think that's going to be another issue.
Thank you. Okay, come on up.
Amelia Eels, 2525 East Clearing Court. My family walks twice a day Safety is a huge concern. We walk all over our neighborhood. We recognize everybody. We love our neighborhood. We walk to Fred Meyer. We ride our bikes. We used to cut across to Hastings was there. And now I go there to shop for my kid again. Safety. I will not feel safe.
Okay.
It's too small for that much development.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Am I here or here?
Senator Mike.
Okay.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Katie McCarney, 2460 North Bullock Avenue. I know that we are not supposed to talk about traffic, but I don't know what else to talk about. I've been here before begging you to allow me to get out of my subdivision. And someone was kind enough to tell me that you approved housing like what's been going in our neighborhood in your own subdivision. But we've had multiple housing units like that go in. I don't have a problem with the people. I love the people. I have an issue with the density. I have been here for 13 years. I want and expect the right to get in and out of my neighborhood. The things that you've been given that I accessed from the city website are complete, they're not true at all. This of the traffic on Hickory is from July 12th, 2016, and as the sweet woman who spoke who moved into Solterra said, she's been there like 9 months or something, that wasn't even full yet. So it's super convenient that the traffic report comes from before lots of the people came into the neighborhood. I am telling you, we will not be able to get in and out. And beyond that, you have all received a statement from the Idaho Transportation Department reminding us that the intersection of Eagle and Fairview is full. When I come home, I sit through that light 3 times while people go around us and cut in to get in before us and whatever else from the 3rd lane. And they say, as the city continues to add additional trips to this corridor through development, the congestion will worsen until the roadway system is ultimately overloaded and fails. That's how I get in and out of my neighborhood, and it is going to fail. Don't just think about what we can handle right now. I begged you a year ago, I beg you now. There is an open lot across from this lot. There is a lot by Sonic, and there is a giant lot at the corner of Eagle and Fairview that is currently a farm. We have all of these people coming in the next few years. So 40 apartments might not make a big difference to you. It's huge to us. If we have to sit through this being worse, this is a person trying to get out of the little business across the way. They got tired of waiting, so they just pulled out and blocked off our traffic coming into the neighborhood. That's what's already happening. So we cannot handle more. The intersection of Eagle and Fairview is 528 yards away from this. So after we sit through this light 3 times, we sit through that one 3 times. And once we do this, we can't undo it. And there is a lot more growth around us to come. That's all we're asking for. This is not a not in my backyard issue. This is an issue of, please, we beg you to be aware of what is going in around us. The north of us, the Blakesley place, 64 more little houses going in there. An open field next to that. We are getting full, and we have tons of growth, as you're all aware of, in the next few years around us. Please help us keep our access to our homes. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. At this point, yes, sir.
My name is Chris Middleton. I live at 2303 North Hickory Way in the Packard Estates. I won't talk about traffic, I promise. I do have 2 other considerations. One is the transition. So we're going from what are now 2- or 3-story buildings, which has already been noted are incongruous with the area, into single-family dwellings. There's no real transition there. It's going to be a very abrupt view for people moving through the neighborhood, looking at the properties, which again reflects on property values. The other consideration, which I've seen firsthand and I haven't heard addressed, is parking for visitors in the apartment complex. I've heard about parking for the residents, but not for visitors, and that presents overflow into the streets, the businesses, and other areas around there. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we're ready for the applicant to come back forward.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the commission. I'll try to address some of the questions that have arisen. As far as traffic, there's not one project that we do that doesn't increase traffic on our street network. Everything, all growth increases traffic. Now, Ada County Highway District, ITD, obviously they're the governing agencies that plan as far as what capacities exist and where that traffic is directed. And in the past, we have segregated a lot of uses, created situations, what they call now urban sprawl, where we're requiring vehicles to travel additional miles in order to get basic services or buy goods, go to the store. So over time, I've been a planner in this area for 27 years now. We've refocused. Everyone's redone their comprehensive plans, redone their ordinances, and looked at balance, creating balance, providing multifamily, single family, industrial, commercial, office, trying to create situations where we have a mixture of uses that are in areas that are, like I said, within the urban core. I built an office off of Pine, and I have been there 11 years. So I drive Hickory, and I drive Pine to Eagle and the Eagle-Fairview intersection multiple times a day, just like everybody else. And as over the past 11 years, my office has been there, we've seen the traffic ramp up, especially when the village went in. That impacted the transportation in that area significantly. And it extended the high peak times because of the theaters and so forth. Obviously, there have been mitigations that have been taking place as far as additional lanes have been added. They've been working on different systems for timing of the signals and so forth to obviously maximize our traffic. Now, we have a small parcel here in a highly developed area. And I read an article not too long ago where it talked about discriminatory zoning and how some areas, by keeping out multifamily from certain areas, it was driving up home prices, rent prices, and trying to find a balance. And I think that's what we're asking you to do. We have a parcel here that's been vacant for many, many years. We've taken into consideration the transitioning from the single family by going with the two-story, the small 8-unit type building, no taller than a two-story home, putting majority of our open space next to them, keeping the masonry wall. We're going to be landscaping along Hickory Way. They brought up the elementary. The elementary is clear up off of River Valley, which is northeast. So I'm trying to, I guess I'm trying to picture those kids as they're walking from River Valley, the elementary there, into these different neighborhoods. They're not even going to be coming by our project.
Please don't shout out.
No comments.
Please don't.
And so I'm trying to visualize, what their concerns are. Now, if Josh could put up the aerial photo, which I have, the aerial view. On the aerial view, the cross-access easements are all established on the plat. And so many people said, well, your property doesn't have any right to use these other cross-accesses that have different outlets, both to Fairview and then over eastward to Hickory Way across from the church's approach. Yes, it does. We have recorded cross-access easements on a plat, on the document. We've reviewed it. So this property does have the right. We will not be cut through traffic. We do have the right to utilize those private drives. They do have speed bumps that were installed. And talking to one of the business owners, he said the speed bumps were installed because they were getting some cut-through traffic to the subdivisions because it made for an easy straight shot and a right-in off of Fairview. And so they wanted to slow the traffic down. Another issue that was brought up is the collector capacity. A local street handles up to 2,000 vehicle trips a day, an existing local street. New local streets we design up to 1,000 vehicle trips a day. So there is no way in the world that Hickory Way, which is a collector, which is no parking, no front-on housing, signalized intersection, is not able to handle the traffic that's being generated. Now, there may need to be adjustments to timing, and obviously there have been comments about the turn lanes. The turn lanes, sometimes those timers are short. I talked to ACHD and ITD about revising the timing at Pine when Sensi came on, because the turn lanes obviously weren't allowing enough cars to go through. So one can communicate with those transportation agencies in order to alleviate some of those problems. As far as property values, it's always, anytime we have a multifamily project within a mile radius of anyone who owns a single family dwelling, they're always, the main thing that is brought up is it is going to impact our property values. I've read a lot of information from the American Planning Association who says that is not correct, that they don't have any empirical evidence that shows that. As far as density issue, this is 20 dwelling units per acre. But you have to remember, we've got 48% of the site that we have in landscapable area. So it's not like it's going to be tight and dense. Someone brought up the fact about the carports. Now, there are different types of carports that we can use. Some are almost like disappearing carports that have a very low profile flat roof. Others, we can go ahead and make them look like little garages so that you put a peak on them. So there are different things depending on the architectural style that you can do to obviously make or build aesthetically pleasing carports. One of the other things that's brought up is crime. Crime exists in our society. It's there. I don't think you can say renters are criminals versus homeowners. I mean, we have it in our society. There's a definite need for rental units. These are not HUD units. These are not entry level. They're trying to create a niche, and we've done quite a few of these 40 unit, 36 unit type projects adjacent to, one's over by Settlers Park, We did big house units over there next to Cedar Springs. Ended up complimenting the area. The buildings look great. They were on a collector also. We had the same concerns. In fact, I talked to some of the homeowners after it was built. They said it looks great. They did a great job with it. And what we found was some of the residents' parents moved into those rental units so they could be near their kids and have some assistance from their kids. And we are a mobile society now. Our home ownership is down to record lows. And so we're seeing that more people are renting because that's the lifestyle they choose. And we need to be able to try to accommodate that. And where better place to put it where we have services. And I asked the commission to look hard at this because I think this is a good use. It complies with the comprehensive plan. And these are great looking buildings. They are building a high-end project. They're not trying to compete with the 300 units over there next to the village. They're trying to build a unique product on a small scale. And we've seen it happen with these luxury units. People want them. And they are a nice addition. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Oh.
Becky, before you leave, so you, just to clarify, to make sure we're clear, is staff's recommending a reduction in units, and you are not in agreement with that because it makes it financially unviable, correct?
Madam Chairman, Commissioner Fitzgerald, that is correct. We don't see why reduce by 4 units when we meet all the requirements, exceed the parking requirements. We also have cross access for parking because Louis has an overflow parking lot that is next to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please don't shout out. We're not going to answer your question anyway. If we're just shouting out. Okay.
Louis owns this lot.
Right.
The owner.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Wilson.
I move to close the public hearing on file number H-2017-0165.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2017-0165 Hickory Apartments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to jump off the cliff first.
Sure, go ahead.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
You put me on the spot.
Because we missed you.
This is what I get for not getting voted for? Go right ahead.
No, for backing out, not that you were voted.
So this one's a tough one for me. I will be totally frank. And I tend to look at the commission in the recent months. Transitions have been a huge deal for us. I think, a 2-story apartment right behind a single-level house is tough for me. And I think to point out a couple things that you guys brought up, property rights goes two ways. So these people have a definite, if Louis Pizza wants to sell this lot and they want to develop on it, they have the right to do that. And I understand that. And the collector, ma'am, we're done. So let us help you understand what we're trying to work through, okay? This is how we get to work through these things. Our commission is very deliberative, and we try to work through, get your take and ours as well as what our code says. The street, we have to utilize what the tools we have, and ACHD and ITD tell us we have the ability to put traffic trips on that road. But I still go back to, is this the right spot for it? Is it certainty, what people thought they were going to get when they moved in there? I don't know. And so that's my challenge. My 2 things I think are transition 1, certainty, and LO 2. But I do, and you guys know, I tend to think this is close to services, And these are these infill things we're going to have a tough time dealing with as we move forward. So love to hear some additional thoughts.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead. Mr. Yearsley.
So this one's a kind of an interesting deal. So I'm gonna weave. If you look at an area and what we're trying to achieve with difference in housing types and adjacent to services, I think this site can fit well for an apartment type condition. Because we're close to amenities, it kind of fits the need, the things that we like for apartments. But what keeps coming back to me is this is a rezone. And I just want to ask a question. How many here are for this application tonight? Would you please raise your hand? So whoever's here to listen to this application, just raise your hand. I'm just curious to see how many people are here regarding this application. Just to listen, yep. So pretty much most everybody here is here for this application, and they're against it. To me, that weighs a lot for a rezone. So at this point, I hear there are issues with traffic. I think whatever goes in is going to affect traffic. I don't know how you're going to fix the traffic issues. But I also, to me, it all comes down to the rezone, and R40, and to the R40. I can't justify the rezone at this point, and at that point, the apartments become inviable. So, personally, I'm against this project because of that.
I personally, we've had, it takes a conditional use permit, even though it's an allowed use under the current zoning, and they're wanting to rezone because just to kind of clean up to make it fit really what they're asking for. But this is a use that they can ask for, but there's a reason they have to ask for it. Normally, like you said, I feel like the surrounding area is where we would normally like to put a higher density just because it is closer to the roads and everything. But I also think that sometimes common sense has to jump in and take a look at the statistics that are offered and say, well, how is this really working in real life? And I think that road, from what we've heard and what I've personally experienced, I don't live there, but I've gone by there often enough and tried to use some of those businesses in the front, and I agree it's got its limitations there just because of the way it pulls out, and the other intersection, the other massive intersection is fairly close, so. Other thoughts?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Holland.
I'd agree. I mean, I think this is a hard one because obviously there's some traffic implications for Hickory Road coming in there. I know there's definitely a need for additional residential units, and especially in the rental markets, as the last couple of years we've seen an increase in people moving here. Idaho got ranked as one of the #1 fastest growing states by the Census Bureau. We know growth is coming. We know that the rental market is a tough one, and that there's not enough units out there right now to meet the needs of the community. But I think my challenge goes back to the same as Commissioner Yearsley, that it was originally intended as an LO, and the rezone itself is challenging to change it to an R40. And I see some of the same challenges that have been presented here.
Mr. Wilson or Gasnelli?
Well, I'll weigh in. I mean, just briefly, because I think everything's mostly been covered. I mean, I'm obviously listening to the residents, and you know, I think the standard by which Commissioner Yearsley kind of set makes an awful lot of sense. That you know, you have to, when you're making a leap like that, you do have to listen to the residents, and you want the developers to be working with those residents to try to get an acceptable development there. You know, that being said, you know, I want to make clear that, that's kind of the standard by which I'm going to oppose it. I think some of the issues of traffic and property, I think you hit the nail right on the head that, it's a balancing act, and we look at the comprehensive plan and we try to make the best call we can, and we use our discretion as a commission to make a recommendation, and that's what we're doing here. But, ACHD, they made a call on traffic, and I, rather than looking at or hearing anecdote, I do believe their traffic study, and that, we're going to have a traffic issue no matter which way we go, and potentially a greater traffic impact if we go commercial. That being said, too, I think overall this development, if it is to go in or is not, I mean, it's a good looking development. I don't think it's going to bring crime. I don't think it's going to, I think that it's going to be older folks who are going to move to this area. And again, people who want the high quality of life that we have in Meridian, who want to live in these kinds of communities. So that being said, again, using Commissioner Yeardsley's standard, I think it is quite the leap to make, considering the opposition.
Most of my thoughts are in line with the rest of the commission. The biggest thing that I saw that jumped out to me from the get-go was going from R8 to R40. And I realize we're going from that's medium to high. That's an allowable step, but I just look at that, and I don't think it's a respectable buffer. I don't think it's a wise buffer. There's a lot of things I like about the looks of the project, but it's not one that in this location that I can support.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
without any further comment, I'll make a motion. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend denial to the City Council for file number H2017-0165 as presented during the hearing of February 1st, 2018 for the following reasons. We don't, with the R40, the lack of transition and certainty of the LO, I think it just doesn't fit in this spot. And I think it's, something else may come along that makes sense, but this doesn't.
Second.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to deny H-2017-0165 Hickory Apartments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Madam Chair.
We still have,
Can we take a break?
yeah, okay, yep. Let's do 5 minutes and give everybody time to clear the room.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I am unmuted now. All right. Okay, at this time, we'd like to continue our regularly scheduled meeting. Oh, boy. And we'd like to open the public hearing for item H-2017-0167, the whistle stop.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. The next applications before you are a request for a rezone, conditional use permit, and a combined preliminary and final plat. This site consists of 5.7 acres of land. It's zoned LO, limited office, located at 1297 West Pine Avenue. Adjacent land uses and zoning to the, excuse me, I'm not on the right page here, am I?
Can we spend enough time on that one?
Yeah. I'm done.
Are my slides backwards? Are we on whistle stop? Okay, sorry about that. I mean to scare you there. All right, this site consists of 5.7 acres of land zoned LO located at 1297 West Pine Avenue. Adjacent land use and zoning to the north are multifamily residential uses, Trey Moore zoned LO. To the south are railroad tracks and industrial uses zoned RUT in Ada County and IL respectively. To the east are multifamily residential uses in Rock Creek, zoned R15, and to the west is an assisted living facility, Sabra, zoned LO. In 2004, a conditional use permit was approved for a multifamily residential development on this site. The developer installed the underground improvements, including the bridge over the 9 Mile Creek and all of the water and sewer mains and pressure irrigation systems, but never commenced construction of buildings. In 2007, another conditional use permit for a multifamily residential development was approved, but no further development occurred. Previous preliminary plats were also approved, but a final plat was never recorded. Comprehensive plan future land use map designation on this property is high-density residential, which is over 15 units per acre. The applicant is requesting council approval of a step down in density from high-density residential to medium-high-density residential, which is 8 to 15 units per acre, with a rezone of 5.73 acres of land from the LO limited office to the R15 zoning district. A site plan was submitted, as shown there on the left, that depicts how the property is proposed to develop with 15 fourplex structures and 1 eightplex structure containing a total of 68 multifamily residential units for a gross density of 11.92 units per acre, in accord with the requested step down in density to medium-high density residential. Since approval of the previous multifamily developments on this site, the UDC has been revised and no longer allows such uses in the LO district. Therefore, a rezone to a residential district is necessary to develop the site in accord with the residential future land use map designation. A conditional use permit is requested for a multifamily development consisting of 68 two-story residential uses in the R15 zoning district. The units will be contained in 10 townhome-style fourplexes with the living room downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs, 5 traditional fourplexes with 2 bedrooms downstairs and 2 bedroom units upstairs, and 1 eightplex with 4 one-bedroom units downstairs and 4 one-bedroom units upstairs. The project is proposed to be constructed in 1 phase. And there, as you can see on the left, are the traditional fourplexes, the townhome-style fourplexes, and the eightplex at the bottom there. Access is proposed by an existing driveway from Pine Avenue, which you can see right here, which also provides access to the adjacent multifamily residential development to the north. A connection to the driveway stub at the east boundary of this site, and that is right in here, is proposed for interconnectivity. Parking is proposed in accord with UDC standards with 5 extra spaces. Carports are proposed to meet the covered parking requirement. Qualified open space is proposed as shown on the plan on the right in excess of UDC standards. Proposed site amenities consist of a 10-foot wide segment of the Rails with Trails pathway along the railroad tracks in accord with the pathway's master plan. a tot lot with children's play equipment, a community garden with raised planter beds, covered bicycle storage, and a pathway along the south side of the creek are also proposed as amenities. 3 different types of building elevations were submitted, as we discussed earlier, for the townhome styles, the traditional 4plexes, and an 8plex. All are 2 stories in height and consist of a mix of horizontal, the board and batten and shake siding with cultured stone accents, and architectural composite roofing. Final design is required to comply with the design standards in the UDC and the Architectural Standards Manual. A combined preliminary and final plat is also proposed, consisting of 16 building lots and 3 common area lots. Landscaping is proposed in accord with UDC standards. There has been no written testimony submitted on this application, and staff is recommending approval with conditions. Staff will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward?
I do have a question.
Sorry.
What is the percentage of open space in here? Do you have that?
25%, I believe. It is in the staff report, Mr. Castanelli.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Amar. My address is 1548 West Cayuse Creek Drive, Suite 100 here in Meridian. I'm here tonight to present Whistle Stop Subdivision, the 3rd try on this project, although my first try. This project was largely developed, I believe, in 2004, 2005. That's when most of the utilities, or all the utilities that are in the ground today, are in the ground. We're here tonight to simply do a rezone and complete the project as was contemplated then, as all the utilities are in the ground now for, and just to finalize the project. In order to do that, obviously, we now have to rezone. At the time, LO allowed multifamily. It does not allow multifamily now, and so we do request a zone change. We are not requesting, we do need a step down, or requesting a step down in density from the comprehensive plan, and that is simply to utilize the existing infrastructure that's in. Sewer is in, water is in, pressure irrigation is in, storm drainage is in. In fact, sewer is being used currently by the city. There's sewer running through these lines, the majority of these lines currently. And so that is the reason we're asking for that zone change. We did have a neighborhood meeting. There wasn't anyone present at that neighborhood meeting. I don't believe there's anyone here tonight for this hearing. We do believe it'll be an enhancement to the project. We know in meeting with staff and with, I see you looking confused. I see there were people that signed up on this, but I believe they were signing up for
Yeah.
the other
That's what
project.
I'm
We
wondering.
can ask,
confused.
but I just don't see enough people here. Yeah. We did meet with the fire department. We met with all the public utilities. We are going through testing. One of the requirements is to test the existing utilities that are in and make sure that they are working properly. We've gone through that part of that project or process now. We'll continue that process, but we feel it'll be a pretty quick process that we can continue this and develop it. And for that reason, we're also able to ask for a preliminary and final plat, because there's really, other than streets to put in and to do testing, there's no major infrastructure to put in. We have to obviously put in the streets, we have to put in the sidewalk, we have to put in the landscaping. It does not account for any ACHD right-of-way or any ACHD approvals. They gave us no comments because there was no comments for them to give. I guess with that, I'll stand for any questions, and we ask for your support and approval this evening. Oh, nope, one other thing. There is one item. Item 6.1 under landscaping contemplates, under parks, 6.1. Sonia, can you go to the photos? Slide number 1. I believe it's a Google map. What's that?
It's already on there.
Okay, thank you. So that shows where this project is situated in the world today. If you go to picture slide number, what am I on? I'm trying to do it off my phone. 5. One of the pictures. So this is currently the road that is constructed, and this is the access for the project. Parks has requested a pathway on the west side of that road to connect back out to Pine. In order to put that pathway in, one, it doesn't provide any additional access on to Pine because there's already a sidewalk on the east side of that road, and to put that sidewalk on the west side of the road would also to be remove all those trees. It really is not a benefit for the project. So although we agree with most of staff conditions, there's just that one condition that we would like to have it removed, as not to have a pathway there. We are providing pathways on both the north and the south of this project, along 9 Mile Creek and then along the railroad tracks, and we'll continue doing that. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair. So,
Commissioner
Sonia, will
Yearsley?
you go back to that photo? So, help me understand where that property line is on that side, or is that an access easement for that you guys have, or what is that part of your property?
It is part of our property. Sonia, if you could go to the slide right before that, it's the preliminary final plat. So that, sorry, Commissioner Yearsley, that flag portion that goes out to Pine, that is part of our property. So that sidewalk that is there currently is on this property.
On your property?
Yeah.
So
that sorry, not to interrupt, but that also provides access to the Traymore assisted living. It's a cross-access agreement for both projects.
All right. So you own about that same amount of space on the other side? I'm assuming, basically, because I'm assuming that back of sidewalk is probably the edge of that property line. Is that not correct?
The back of those trees are where we own to. So there's maybe a foot or two past that, but that road is not built directly center of that flag portion of that lot.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was wondering, as an alternative, could we widen that existing sidewalk a little bit to get a little bit wider pathway as an option to not do the sidewalk on the other side?
Yeah, and again, this pathway is not even contemplated on the city's pathway plan.
Oh, I understand that, but it allows for more access for your residents out to Pine if they want to ride or bike or walk or something like that was my only thought, so.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, we think we don't have anybody signed up, but we'll ask, is there anybody in the room that wishes to testify on this application? Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion then at this time to close the public hearing for item number H-2017-0167, the Whistle Stop subdivision.
Madam Chair, so moved. Oh,
second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for H-2017-0167. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I just think this is 180 out from the one we just heard. I mean, it's similar request on paper, but I really don't see a problem with this, and especially just going to the 15 instead of the 40. Obviously, it's more open space, and there's not near the traffic issue already in place.
The aerial shot says it all. There's, it fits there. It makes sense as a development surrounded by what's there, and I will be supporting it.
And if we're going down the line here, R15, we're stepping down. Everything's two-story. It's like this is a nice one to deal with. My only comments. There's only 5 extra parking spots, I think, than what's required, and it's always an issue. If you could, there's plenty of open space. It looks like. I mean, if you could squeeze a few more out of there, you are meeting minimum requirements. That would be one of my comments. The only other comment I have is. One of the listed amenities is bike storage, and I'd like to see other amenities. But other than that, I'm totally supportive of of this project. It fits with everything surrounding. I like it.
Madam Chair, I agree. I think my only comment about the parking as we get into these types of things is the aerial view does paint the picture, and there's so much big asphalt with no cars in it that if this is the direction that the commission wants to go, then we need to talk to staff about changing the requirements, because we're giving the developers a set of rules. We're the ones who have to tell them what, but we keep going over and over and over this thing. So if we're going to want to, if that's the constant conversation we're going to have, then we need to talk about having staff change the standards. So I start having heart palpitations because I just see giant asphalt parking lots that are empty.
Yeah.
And so this makes total sense to me. It's something that's already in the ground. And so I'm on board.
Yeah, I think our concerns with parking have normally come into play when there's just nowhere else to go.
Park. Yes. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, and so maybe there is a set of conditions that we can formalize for that, because that seems to be coming up in front of us
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, because they cannot park out on that street.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So.
Madam Chair, yeah, you know, given the surroundings around it, it's very complementary to what's already there. It's back far enough that it's not very visible to the people on the street, kind of the area. So I think it fits very well. I guess for me, there's not a great path for pedestrians to get out to Pine if they wanted to walk or bike, and that's my only concern. I'm having heartburn. Do I want to tear out trees to put in pathway? I do like the idea of potentially putting curb and gutter on the other side of the street to clean it up a little bit better, because I don't like the look of the entrance road. Yeah. But that's my only.
I would agree. I like the curb and gutter idea, and then your suggestion of just widening the existing pathway instead of taking out those trees, I think is an excellent idea.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Holland.
I'm wondering, is there any pathway that goes on the 9 Mile Creek area? And maybe that could be another compromise of connecting that neighborhood over to where there's some additional sidewalks?
Well, the biggest problem I think with that is, Madam Chair, is they can't construct a pathway on somebody else's property. That's the problem, the rub that comes with that, so.
Isn't there a pathway right there?
That's what I was seeing. It looks like there might be a pathway already existing at the top of the north of the 10 Mile Creek, or the North Mile Creek.
Okay. All right. Would somebody like to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Come on up.
Sorry.
No, that's great.
On 9 Mile Creek, we're installing a pathway on the south side. Currently on the north side of that, there is also I believe it's a 5-foot pathway, but it's just for the length of that Traymore assisted living. Past that to the east or west, there is no additional pathway. It does go through Rock Creek?
Yeah, it goes all the way over into another neighborhood.
That's what I was seeing.
On the wrong side of the street.
Okay.
Sorry. It goes through Rock Creek, but
Okay.
it doesn't go west. Rock Creek is the multifamily project directly east of this.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move we close the public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Fitzgerald. It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
I will go with what everyone else thinks. I'm been on the Parks and Rec Commission long enough that I like pathways, and so whatever we can do to promote pathways.
Interconnectivity, right? Isn't that the word?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're trying at the south, or at the south too, but it just doesn't connect to anything else besides the dirt trails that are there, or looks like their wheel tracks.
Right. Well, and I think in the future, you know, those may connect.
Yeah.
So.
I think they are trying in that situation, but I understand your point.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion which addresses 6.1?
I would probably make a motion that Commissioner Yearsley wouldn't probably agree with, but because I don't think thinking out mature landscaping or destroying current sidewalk that's already there. It does have access to Pine. It's just not as wide as we'd like it to be. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of yanking out mature landscaping for twig trees either. So if we were talking about curb and gutter, and that's the only thing, I'd probably be in favor of that to clean it up.
Well, and the only thing that I see is those trees are going to be really too close to the roadway that they're going to tear out the roadway in the next 5 years. It is what it is. I mean,
no, I agree. I understand.
So, you know, you're going to tear it out now or later, we can get a pathway in there. So, because if you look, I mean, those are really close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as those trees grow, it'll tear up that roadway. You know, I lived in my subdivision for 10, 12 years, and the trees are now starting to impact the sidewalks significantly just within that 10 years. So,
yeah.
I'm actually in favor of getting rid of the trees for the pathway at this point. Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley.
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I recommend approval to City Council of file number H 2017-0167 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of February 1, 2018 with no modifications.
Do I hear a second? All right, there being no second, we'll go back to discussions. Yeah, I happen to agree. I think those trees are, I mean, looking at that picture from that angle, they are what, about a foot, 2 foot off the road?
Yep.
Yeah. They probably need to go, and 6.1, have it in here.
The staff report.
I'm looking for 6.1.
Okay, it says construct a 10-foot multi-use pathway to provide pedestrian connection from proposed sidewalk at the western parking lot edge north to West Pine Avenue, west of the existing road access. Provide fencing and landscape consistent with the standards of the code, and pathway may taper to match sidewalk width where it meets the parking lot. So we want to leave that in there? I was going to say, how...
Madam Chair.
If they don't own 10 feet, how can they construct a 10-foot pathway?
Madam Chair, I was trying to get a hold of the Pathways Project Manager before this meeting, and I was unable to make connections. The condition appeared a little wonky to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that was the intent. The Pathways Master Plan does not show an extension out to Pine. It just shows the pathway along the north side of the creek. So I was wanting to just confirm with her that that was her intent.
Okay.
But definitely we'll touch base with her prior to the council meeting to confirm that was the intent or not. There doesn't appear to be sufficient width along the west side, and like it was pointed out already, there is already a connection, just small, not as wide.
Yeah, if they don't
to
own
Pine.
enough property to make that, I don't see the point in putting a sidewalk right on the street.
Yeah. Anyway, just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
All right, Ryan.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
Well, the question becomes now, what page is that on? Do we pull in the whole section out? Or the whole 6.1? Are we comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
On page 32.
I come back and I get hazed for having to make all the motions? Oh, you tried.
I tried. So mine got failed, so.
I'm just joking. Madam Chair, I would make a motion after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of file number H 2017-0167 as presented in the staff report for the hearing dated February 1st, 2018, with the following modification with the removal of item 6.1 regarding landscaping.
Second.
And buffering.
It has been moved and seconded to approve H-2017-0167, the whistle stop with the aforementioned modification. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Bruce. Okay. At this time, we'd like to open the public hearing for H-2017-0159, SAM. Did I say that right, Sonia? SAM?
Siam.
There you go. East Subdivision. We'll begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. The next applications before you are a request for a comprehensive plan map amendment, annexation and zoning, and a preliminary plat. This site consists of 23 acres of land zoned IL, light industrial, in the city, and R1 and RUT in Ada County, located on the north side of East Franklin Road, east of North Touchmark Way. Adjacent land use and zoning to the north are the railroad tracks and industrial property zoned IL. To the east is agricultural property zoned RUT in Ada County. To the south is East Franklin Road and vacant undeveloped property zoned LO. And to the west is industrial property, developed and undeveloped zoned IL. The west parcel that's shown there in gray on the map on the left was previously annexed and preliminary platted as part of Siam subdivision. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation on the west parcel is industrial, and it is mixed use regional on the east parcels. The applicant is requesting an amendment to the future land use map in the comprehensive plan to change the land use designation on approximately 15 acres of land from mixed use regional to industrial. Proposed change will extend the existing industrial designation south of the railroad tracks from Touchmark Way and North Gaudians Avenue to the east, and will eliminate approximately half of the overall mixed-use regional designated land in this area. If Commission and Council approve of the proposed change, staff recommends the remaining mixed-use regional designated land to the east is also changed to industrial in a subsequent map amendment. Annexation and zoning of 18.33 acres of land with an IL zoning district is requested, consistent with the proposed amendment to the future land use map to industrial. A conceptual development plan was not submitted for this site. However, photos were submitted that represent what future buildings on this site will look like. Because buildings constructed along the frontage of this site will be highly visible from Franklin Road, an entryway corridor into the city, staff recommends these buildings comply with the design standards for commercial buildings in the Architectural Standards Manual. This was also a requirement for the adjacent properties to the west in Siam subdivision. Staff recommends the existing development agreement for Siam be modified to include the subject property. A preliminary plat is proposed as shown that consists of 10 building lots on approximately 23 acres of land in the proposed IL zoning district. There are 2 existing homes and accessory structures on this site that are required to be removed prior to city engineer signature on the final plat. The proposed plat depicts the extension of East Lanark Street, an industrial collector from the west through the site to the east boundary, and a new local street via Franklin Road that intersects with Lanark. A 35-foot wide landscape street buffer is required to be provided along Franklin Road, a 20-foot buffer is required along Lanark, and a 10-foot wide buffer is required along Parkdale. These buffers are required to be in a common lot or on a permanent dedicated buffer maintained by the property owner or business owners association, and are required to be constructed with each phase of development. The Evans Drain runs along the north boundary of the site, and as a natural waterway is required to be left open and not be piped, and should be improved and protected. Any other ditches on the site should be piped. Written testimony has been received from the applicant's representative, Brad Miller, and he does have a request that I'll let him go into with his presentation. Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward? Thanks for hanging in there with us.
Well, you're all right.
this wasn't much of a problem. Brad Miller with representing Volante Investment, and also Ron Van Acker, 3084 East Lanark in Meridian. I just have to tell you, Madam Chair, that it's an odd subdivision name, but when we went in the county on the first subdivision, they would not let us use the name Mays, which is the name of the people that we bought the subdivision from. And so we just reversed that. And so that's Mays spelled backwards, and the county surveyor accepted it. So we're industrial guys. That's the most creative thing we've done with this project. Everything else is just a bunch of square lots. So we've, over the period of time, we've accumulated quite a bit of land in there. The R.C. Willey project on the corner of Eagle and Franklin was ours. We sold that to them. And then where DeMeyer Furniture is. So we own everything but about 15 acres down there, 3 5-acre lots. And it's our objective to obtain those at such time that the people are ready to sell. And convert those to industrial as well. We're industrial developers. We build big warehouse buildings. So if you have tires on your car, it came out of one of our warehouses. In fact, one of our warehouses in Nampa. If you eat tortilla chips, they came out of a warehouse that we have in over off of Linder. If you eat, if your dog eats dog food, it comes out of one of our warehouses. So we're essential. Our buildings are essential to the economy here. And we appreciate the opportunity to do business in Meridian. We'd ask for your support and approval of this project. Stand for any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Fitzgerald.
Brad, you want to keep some of the houses? Is that our understanding?
Commissioner Fitzgerald, yes. My reasoning for that is we have a home on there and we also have a trailer on there. And it's not because I want the rent, $350 a month, to keep coming in, but those people, it'll be a real hardship when we have to have them relocate. They actually own the trailer, but they don't have any money to relocate it. So if we're not disturbing them, I'd like to leave it in place as long as we can until we develop that lot.
Time frame?
There's really not. I mean,
Okay.
we've owned some of that property for over 20 years. I would imagine that once we put the roads in, that we'll probably want to develop it out relatively quickly. But we also, when we build buildings, we own and manage them ourselves. We typically don't sell buildings off or sell lots off. So we'll continue to own that for years to come. But I would like to be able to keep those people in place as long as I can.
And your agreement with staff report to have those buildings that are on the outer edge have the commercial appeal on the exterior?
Yes, ma'am. That's the same condition we have on the other subdivision to the west.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're fine with that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm guessing we have no one in the room who would like to comment on this application. So at this time, could I get a motion to close the public hearing for item H-2017-0159?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2017-0159. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have a question. Is with keeping those, the homes in the trailer and their access to Franklin, with this being developed, is there an issue from ACHD with keeping their access onto Franklin?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the access will go away once the property redevelops, and that's how long the applicant's asking for them to be allowed to remain.
But
As far as
approval
I
of
know,
this,
there's no
that
concern with that with ACHD.
ACHD isn't going to want to come along as soon as this is approved and then have an access.
As
via
far as
off a
I
land
know,
or
no, but if they do, the applicant will have to comply with any requirements ACHD has.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley.
I think that this is a good fit for the area. I think it makes sense, and I think it makes sense to just continue that light industrial all the way to the property, our, not boundary, but our, within our, I can't even think of the name. Yeah, so those are the three lots to be put into, to have the map adjustment to go to those to be light industrial as well. I'm on the fence on the house. I don't want to be mean, but yet also, I don't know what to do on that one. I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, normally we do, it's time to clean it up when this starts happening, so.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Sonia, what would be in a reasonable time frame? Is just plat signatures? When would you want those to be removed per your? I mean, because I think I understand the trying to relocate families, those kinds of challenges. But what would your recommendation be if that's where we wanted to go? We wanted to keep them for a little while.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fitzgerald, Commissioners, the typical condition is they need to be removed prior to signature on the final plat by the city engineer.
And that's typically within 2 years unless they ask for an extension, correct?
Correct.
I mean, I think that's reasonable, but that's.
Yeah.
So at that point, we wouldn't make any modifications to it.
No, that's the way it's written in the staff report. Okay.
Madam Chair, I would agree with Commissioner Yearsley. I think the Van Akkers have been exceptional builders in regards to providing great space for our businesses in that area to grow. I know they house half of Cincy if it doesn't fit on their own campus. So I think that the industrial going across that with a plat amendment of it, map amendment eventually would be a wise move.
Madam Chair, I'd agree as well. I think that we need more opportunities for light industrial and for light manufacturing, and this gives a good opportunity and a good location for it.
Yep.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Wilson.
I don't know why I don't have this memorized. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H-2017-0159 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of February 1, 2018.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve file number H-2017-0159. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Wilson.
Madam Chair.
Oh.
Sorry.
Can't go yet.
You always.
Before you adjourn, I just want to remind the commission of the joint meeting on the 13th of February. So please, if you can attend that, have that on your calendars. Did everyone get that meeting invite that I forwarded on to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Dinner at 5:30.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
I did.
Madam Chair.
Your last motion.
Commissioner Casanelli.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh, I did.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting of February 1st, 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I think it's just Charlene wouldn't let my